Thanks again to Ross for creating this challenge for us. So this is following on from last week's challenge. So we have this input that came from last week's output. So we have every single student here, and what region, what school they went to, what their grades are, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do in this step is we're going to just calculate their initials. So rather than it being their full name, we just want their first name and their surname as initials. So one way of doing that is to split these on this field, this full name field, on the space. So doing a custom split with the space and doing all so that it creates these two new fields. And then we just use a left calculation to get the first letter of the first name, and then another left calculation to get the first letter of the second name. And then we can just stick those two initials together using a plus button. And then we can just get rid of any of those additional fields that we didn't actually need, so that we just have this initials field. And this is what's going to help us actually to join it onto the additional information that we have about the students. So you can see there is some repeated information in the additional information. So we won't need to join on all of these fields, but we need to work out how to make that unique. So we do a join, and we've got quite a few fields here that we're joining on, so let's see which of them are actually useful. I'm actually going to remove all of them and see which ones lead us to have 4,000 rows. So we'll start off with those initials that we were talking about, because they're going to help quite a lot. And then as well, the date of birth, that's probably going to help us too. So let's do initials and date of birth, see how that helps to narrow things down. That's good. So our initials and date of birth are leading to 4,154. We're looking for that to be equal, so 4,000. So let's try the school name as well. Okay, so we're still having some duplication going on there. We're still getting 4,010, so 10 duplicate rows. So clearly, even those who go to the same school with the same initials and the same date of birth, there's some duplication going on. So then we'll start thinking about the grades. So go on. We'll join English together. Now we only have 2 duplicate rows. If we include maths, oh, that does actually fix it for us, but we'll include science as well, just for safety's sake. Okay, so we do need to do quite a lot of join clauses just to make sure that we are matching the correct student to the correct student in this case. Now we're ready to rank these students. So if we think about how we want to rank them, we want to use that grade score. So let's go and find the grade score field, go to create calculated fields, and we want to create a ranking for that. So we're using our grade score initially in descending order, and then where there are tie breaks, so for example, this one here, both 3 students have 150 as their grade score. We then want the closest students to be prioritized. So we include, using this plus button here, the distance from the school in ascending order. So we need to just make sure that we change this to be ascending. Grade score we keep as descending, but distance we need to be ascending. And then we also need to have a group by here as well. So if I just show here that we're doing this for each region and for each subject selection, so the course that they're applying to at the sixth form. And this sets up our top students ranking order. So we'll create a calculated field to quickly say which students are accepted and which are rejected. So if they're from the East region, then we're accepting the top 15 students. If they're from the West region, then we're accepting the top 5 students. Remember that 75-25% split. So we've got students being accepted and rejected there. So we've got that as a flag that is over here. So we can see that we have those 100 students that are accepted, which is what we're expecting. So we'll filter to just those students and then get rid of any unnecessary fields, ones that were duplicated from before. So we've just got this table here now with 11 fields. Now we want to work out which schools these students are coming from. So who are these top students that are being accepted? So we want to do a bit of analysis on that. So we're just grouping by our region, grouping by our school name, and finding out the total number of rows for that. we're going to create now a percentage of total as well. So we're going to use a level of detail calculation to group by each region and sum those number of rows as well. So we know the total number of schools, which it's total number of spaces, sorry, which is 25 for the West region, 75 for the East region. So then we'll just make that percentage of total there. So doing the number of rows divided by the spaces by region, multiplying that by 100. So this school here, for example, it's not showing up there. Let's go for the top school there. There we go. So for East region, Waterview Academy has the most schools, the most spaces, and so on and so forth. There we go. I was trying to look for. I'm wondering which region that 28 comes from. It comes from the West, and it comes from 7, right? Okay, so 7 spaces for the West makes that 28% there. Okay, it's probably just a rounding error that it doesn't like us clicking on the 28 there. Okay, so then what we want to do from that point is we want to group these schools into high performing, low performing, or average performing. So how we're defining that, we're saying what's the minimum percentage per region. And then we're also saying what's the, if that minimum region is equal to that percentage, then it's low performing, otherwise it's null. So these low performing schools are those with the bottom percentages basically. And then we'll do the same for the maximum. So the top performing schools, so grouping by each region, taking the maximum of that percentage of total, and then calculating if that max per region is equal to the percentage, then they're high performing schools. So clearly the high performing is not going to overlap with the low performing, so we can just go ahead and merge these fields together. So you can see that dropped merge fields has appeared there. I can just do that, and then we get those two merged together. So we still have our high performing and our low performing, and then everything else we'll just categorize as average. So we'll just double click in there and replace that null with average. Okay, and then we'll remove all the fields that we don't need there, so we just have the school names and whether they're high, low, or average performing. Bring those together and look at our data set in completion before outputting that data. So thanks very much again to Ross for creating this challenge, and thank you to you for watching.